Well, some of you are probably too young to remember the Beatles. For those of you who are,
I don't think so.
they were an incredible, iconic group. And last year we had the Taylor Swift series, and I was challenged if we're going to talk about Taylor Swift, how about talking about the Beatles? So today and the next 3 weeks are the answer to that challenge. I first want to welcome you to Jordan Platz here at the Harding Chapel at Lookout Hill. If you don't get that joke, ask somebody about Music Fest, and I'll tell you. So the Beatles, I just wrote down some of the songs that you've probably heard that I think are kind of iconic songs. Sgt. Pepper, The Yellow Submarine, Eleanor Rigby, Yesterday, A Long and Winding Road, A Hard Day's Night, Little Help from My Friends, and so on and so forth. I don't know, there's like 140 songs or something like that in their collection, I think, maybe more. But those are some of the ones that certainly I remember. And so since last year, I've been listening to Sirius XM, Channel 18, where you can hear the music of the Beatles, and been reading a lot about the Beatles 8 days a week. Get it?
I do get it.
Okay. So I've invited Steve Morth, who is a friend of Charlie and Linda Gardner's. He claims that he's not a historian, not an expert at all things Beatles, but he likes their music.
I do like the music.
So Steve, first of all, welcome to Jordan UCC.
Thank you very much.
And
Jordan Church.
and then also just tell us a little bit about yourself. Maybe you want to hold the microphone up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
Like
Okay,
thunder
maybe
rolling
not so
from
close.
the
Not so
mountains.
close.
Like the burning bush. Huh? Hi, I am Steve Morth, and my wife Denise is the one taking pictures with her red cell phone right now. We'll be married 50 years this December. Thank you. Not yet, but our extended family, we have 3 adult daughters. We have, between us, we share 4 grandchildren, multiple dogs, and 24 chickens. So, and many, many good friends, some of whom, like the Gardners and the Myers, are sitting next to my wife, Denise. So it's been a very, very good time for us here. We moved up from Texas in 1987, initially in Macungie, and then about a dozen years ago, we moved to our current house in Fogelsville. And it looks a lot like this. This would be a nice backyard.
So, welcome, and just tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the music of the Beatles, like, just what some of the most popular songs that you have enjoyed, and just...
Yeah. Well, I stumbled across the Beatles. It wasn't anything terribly miraculous. I was in the 5th grade or 6th grade. I was mostly interested, to be honest, in comic books. I knew a lot more about Spider-Man and Superman and Batman than I did the Beatles. I didn't recall listening to a lot. I'd heard a little bit about Elvis, maybe a little bit about the Everly Brothers, but beyond that, music had not crossed my radar screen. I was sitting in a PX on a military base outside of Brunswick, Georgia. My father was a 20-year Navy veteran. We moved quite a bit. And I was sitting there sipping on a chocolate milkshake, and I Want to Hold Your Hand came over the loudspeakers. And I had, quite frankly, never heard anything like that before. And so when Dr. David asked me to come and join him this morning, one of the things he wanted to talk about, well, why do you like them? And I have liked them for 60 years, but I had to take some time to really think about it. And it did begin that particular day because I had never heard those kind of harmonies, those kind of melodies, the interesting chord at the end of the song, and the fact that it was all in 2 minutes. I thought, how can you be clever in 2 minutes? I'd never heard anybody take 2 minutes to be clever. So that's kind of how it started, and I have been in the business of collecting and listening and getting my hands on anything the Beatles have done for the last 60 plus years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So tell us, like, among all of the songs, I just mentioned some of the ones that I could think of that I've heard for many, many years.
Right.
What are some of your favorite songs?
Yeah, their catalog is huge. Anybody have a guess at how many songs the Beatles recorded? That's a good guess. 213 songs.
Woo.
213 songs. And more importantly, of those songs, only 25 were covers, meaning they were singing somebody else's song. They wrote the rest of those songs themselves. And that doesn't sound like a terribly big deal today because everybody kind of does that sort of thing. But back then, It was kind of like the movies in the 50s where the big production houses ran everything, stars were under contracts. They had very little say in anything about the final product. The Beatles changed that entire business plan, if you will. By writing their songs, they got publishing rights, an income stream that people had not gotten before. And they came from a town in England, which was not exporting music to this country, let alone the world. And it was a little town called Liverpool, which at one time was the busiest seaport in the world, but it had really gone downhill quite a bit. These four guys were in their 20 years old. Yep. They had very little in the way of formal education. They had no musical education. Their manager was basically a fellow who was running a record store. He had no managing ability. Their producer was better known for his work with classical artists and comedy records like Peter Sellers. A very unlikely recipe for success. But in the beginning of 1964, that success began, and it carries on to this day.
And what makes them, because there are some groups that are like The Who, I mean, it's like they're on the geriatric tour now.
Right.
And there are lots that have been, 50 years of Chicago is going to be I think at Music Fest.
Yep.
And they've been around for 50 years.
They have.
So, but the Beatles broke up then and went on their own solo. But what keeps them so popular?
There's a saying, that says, always leave them wanting more. And it's a kind of a good thing. Don't overstay your welcome, for instance. Read the room. The Beatles actually had done a fair amount of touring as far back as 1961. Most of it was in Germany, in Hamburg. But when they started in 1964 in earnest, they did more than 1,400 shows. Many of them were small venues, but many of them were like in Shea Stadium or Candlestick Park. And they did that for 2 years. And in 1966, they quit touring, which was unheard of because that's what everybody did. They toured. And the Beatles went exclusively to a studio. And they did not do another live tour appearance until 1969 on the rooftop of their headquarters in downtown London, 45 minutes to cover some songs from an album called Let It Be. But that's just one of the many, many conventions they changed. They basically said, we're not going to do touring. This is a group that created their own label, Apple Records. The first artist signed to Apple Records was James Taylor. Maybe you've heard of him. They created their whole notion about like what songs were going to go on an album. They decided that. No publishing company, no production supervisor. They decided the cover art. It used to be when a single came out, the A side would be the hit, they thought, and the B side was just some junk. They called it filler. The Beatles started double A's, where both sides of the song were great hits, and they went right to number one. They broke convention after convention. They used television. They used movies. You've probably heard about the movies Hard Day's Night and Help and Let It Be. They did animation like Yellow Submarine. They used television. Anybody remember Ed Sullivan? The first time anybody in the United States saw them live was on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964. At the time, there were 193 million people living in the United States. 74 million of those people tuned in to watch the Beatles on television. I mean, it seems pretty remarkable even today, but back then it was more than remarkable. They did, like I said, they did movies. They did theater. I don't know how many of you have heard of Cirque du Soleil. It's a Canadian organization that puts on great acrobatic, musical, and animation type programs. The Beatles' musical Love has been running in Las Vegas for 14 years. It just closed, and 12 million people have seen it. So they made just an amazing contribution, not only to music, but the way music is created, produced, delivered, and shared with people. To date, they've had more than 12 billion downloads of their music since streaming didn't exist when they started. So they have really, and this is in the space of 6 years. It's hard to believe even today.
Yeah. So with all of this background, part of this series is to learn about what we might in listening to the music of the Beatles,
Right.
what we might learn about living our lives and implications for our faith life. Because most of us, I sing hymns sometimes in the shower, but
Right.
my wife tells me to shut up. It's a kind of the soundtrack of our life. So when
Right.
people are listening to it as much as they are and downloading their music, what do you think they are hearing?
Yeah, I've always, of all the forms of art, if you go to see a movie or a picture, or you see a picture in a portrait gallery or something, you like it at that point in time. You may remember it for a day or two. You may say even I'll watch it again or I'll go back and look at it, but you probably don't. But a song, when you hear it, it's like an old friend. You remember exactly where you were when you first met them, who you were with, how they made you feel, and if it was a good experience, you can't wait to meet them again. And that's the way I think the Beatles came about. And that's the reason we send these songs, because it was such an encouraging time of independence where people could create something out of nothing. Melodies are just out there, and these people grabbed it and put it into the form of song. And I take it from your series, All You Need Is Love. If you had to distill the Beatles down and boil it down, the main thing they agreed to was that point, all you need is love. Whether it's a boy loves a girl loves a boy drops a girl drops a boy, love of family, love of faith, love of country, love of professions. They went on from just simple Valentines to boyfriends and girlfriends very quickly to talking stories, sharing stories. And that was the biggest one. So the one thing about the Beatles, their first album in the United States was called Meet the Beatles. And 61 years later, you can still meet them today.
It's amazing.
Yep.
So, I wanted to tell you, I did wear my guitar socks today just in honor of this.
I was going to wear a Beatle hat, but I thought that might be too much.
Okay. But yeah, it's not often I wear guitar socks, but today, because I'm a drummer but not a guitarist. So this is Pearls Before Swine. This is a comic strip in the Morning Call. Piglet is going up to talk to the wise one on the hill. Oh, great wise one, may I ask you a question? Yes, my son, what do you want to know? Nothing, but since you're so much closer to God way up here, could you please tell him thanks for sending us Paul McCartney? And then it closes, sometimes you got to show some gratitude.
Right. It's a good life lesson, because every time someone told them they couldn't do it, they said, yeah.
Well, Steve, any last comments? I just want to tell
No, I
folks.
think so. I appreciate the invitation to come and join you at this beautiful location this morning and a wonderful service. And I hope the rest of your day and starts as nice as this morning has.
Thank you. Well, but wait, there's more.
Oh, no.
Today, I'm going to give you an authentic Jordan UCC custom mug. These are not available in any stores. They will become collector's items in the future. And people out here are looking and saying, how come we don't have one? You will get one. But today, Steve gets the first one.
Right. I have to declare this on my taxes. Okay.
Just want to, before you, just to let you know about the next couple of weeks. Next week, I'll talk about help, and we can work it out using those two songs. A message of how we need help and yet how we look to one another and to God for our ways of being together in community. On the 17th, we'll discuss Let It Be and that song. And then on the 24th, when we end this series using the song Blackbird, and we will have, again, a butterfly release as we did last year. But that last year was our first attempt. But this year, we'll have 250 butterflies. You will each get your own butterfly. I'll tie that message together. So let's give, again, a round of applause and a thanks for Steve for taking time to be with us today.
Thanks, folks.
God bless you.
We passed the audition.
Yeah, thank you.